They said, why Furo Innovations? What do we want to do? And I said that we want to bring leaders, philosophies, and organizations together who can advise on, peace building treaties, conflict resolution based on research. And then Chaya ma'am also added to the thing that we need to also take delegations within the region and see, what were the problems, how they were resolved. Small problems, because small problems can, become big then, right? So how do you resolve them? And then we went to the another part, speaker, Kinga, where the complete, this is exactly what he's doing in Institute of Happiness, by groundbreaking research on new methodology towards gross happiness index and applying that to the constitution, to the laws, etc., to make sure it becomes simple. And that's what I want to do. That, okay, we already have the Institute of Peace, which is led by him, and I'll be very happy to collaborate with him and work on the Institute of Peace bit and do research on these conflict infested or whatever regions, where then we can find the shared values. We have the shared genetics also to some extent, and find a new methodology and work towards peace. And that's what I keep saying, that we don't have a framework, we don't have an institution in this region. We lack it big time. There's nobody who's hand-holding via methodology, via research, via what do the people of this region really want. And with the demographic dividend, how SAARC can now be the next superpower or next superhouse within the superpowers, right? So that was the whole idea, and I think that is what has come through your and my discussion. And because to get to somewhere, you will have discussion, you will have argument,
yes,
you will have agreement. But the whole idea is, how do we still coexist as human beings and respecting each other's, because it's not mandated what I think today is going to remain so, and what you think today is going to remain so also, because we will evolve with time. And that's the whole idea of evolving with time and with the content, as we keep talking about political peace with Furo Innovations.
We have to understand that for Nepal, this is an era of very exciting changes. New awakenings and aspirations have taken roots. Centuries of social, cultural, political, strategic, economic ties can only remain strong if they can remain relevant to changing times.
Right.
The treaty somehow tends to become a very sensitive issue, especially on the Nepal side. It has to be understood that Nepal is surrounded by India on all three sides. The call for revision was once again raised during the India-Nepal Joint Commission meeting held on January 15th, I think. So this came nearly 7 years after sides agreed to review, adjust, and update the Treaty of Peace and Friendship of 1950 during Prime Minister Narendra Modi's first visit to Nepal in 2014, when I was also in the parliament, and he gave us a talk in the parliament, which was very, very enlightening. I was highly impressed then.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I was in the parliament that time when, so subsequently an India-Nepal Eminent Persons Group was created to look into this issue and other matters of bilateral importance. The EPG report, which was finalized in 2018, had prominently recommended visions of this treaty, but very sad that the treaty has not yet been officially adopted. Due attention need to be provided to study carried out by the EPG, because trusted individuals from both India and Nepal were part of the group. So the border disputes that erupts time and again seems to deepen the feeling of antagonism and hostility towards each other. And yes, I think it's time to update the treaty and look into it.
Well, it leads us to confusion, and you took those words of mine, because when you talk about constitution, a normal person doesn't understand it, right? But a normal person is the one who is fundamentally creating that nation. Nation is made of people, so constitution is for people. If people don't understand, I mean, like you just said, I don't know, 35 articles, 35 subtitles and all of that, people don't understand that. Make it simple. And if you are doing that, i would I would be all there to support and help. And I would also say that, why only for Bhutan? Please do it for India. Please do it. Do the research for the entire region, or like, let's say, recommend like top five, top seven constitutional reforms, and say that this is what we really need in this region. And go and meet all of these leaders across, and we are there to help you and support you, because this is what we need. We need simpler content. We need something that people understand, that people relate, and then people can work for.
Like every question, even in this forum, is highly complex. Um, to me, the exciting part is how do you reduce that complexity, and acknowledging the complexity will always be there. But if you don't reduce it, then then you not really get the momentum as well. So in terms of, I think, the disproportionate attention on the, as you were saying, the border uh, defense and conflict, I think part of the thing is we need to, again, in a small way. I'm not saying that this could be achieved, but if we can reframe the entire gaming theory between the communities, between the societies, or between the nations, to a situation where we really, where we really discuss and agree on the shared common values and purposes. Again, it may sound like a cliche, but to me, I mean, it always reminds me of the fascinating experiment they did with some of the mice, right? I mean, they let them play, big mice and the small rats and the small mice. So initially the big mice were really bullying the small mice. So the small mice then, in some way, they realized that, hey, look, this is really unethical. I mean, they need us also to play with them so that if they want to enjoy the game. So then they realized the small mice, they started polluting and they didn't play. And then the big mice then slowly came around and sort of, in a way, apologetically, then they said, okay, sorry guys, now we are not going to be rough anymore, because we need you to play along. So I think it's a normative, fundamental, ethical issue that we need to reduce everything to, and agree that, let's be transparent about everything. So I think if we can come to some kind of agreement, and in that sense, then I think that will take care of one part, being the expenditure on being belligerent, expenditure on the arms race, because that's just a gaming theory, and it's not a fundamental ethical, negotiation that you're carrying out with the other group. So I hope that we can learn something from this mice experiment. Fascinating, but at the same time, it's so true at every level. So let's look at that, and I think um, in the research and the talk that I'm sharing now is also, we are saying that, look, GNH leadership framework from Bhutan is in some ways an answer to the global tragedy of the commons. So when you look at the global level, so not only arms race, I mean, COP26 has just taken place. So looking at the entire gamut of climate change challenges, and this is really the manifestation of global tragedy of the commons. And I don't think, especially, we have the big countries who are not able to participate for understandable reasons. So that global tragedy of commons, through our institute, we are bringing it down in Bhutan and at the community level. And then finally, we have zoomed into one very popular saying in Bhutan, which says that Mangilamo Gogit Hom Cha. I know all of you have understood that right now. What it means is that when you plow the community field, sometimes you will break your plowshare. And that is something which you should not forget. And it's absolutely okay to break your own personal plowshare if the benefit is for the community's field. So again, it goes down to zooming into some of the archetype stories that we share in the communities, and then how do we then translate it to even at the education system and even at the diplomatic level.
See, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
That the no support.
Yes, there
No
was no
support
support.
means, I don't know whether, do you support always something that's good, or you try and say, okay, I'm going to take a step back because I think it's not good for them in long term. Perhaps that's something that people saw, and that's really the reality. Look at the natural resources. I think it could be one of the richest region
Yes.
in SARC, right? But still
Yeah.
people are bleeding. So perhaps no support because of that. And that's why I'm saying why. Well, that's my next question to you. See, we've evolved to a new institution. It's called politics. It's called governance.
Yeah.
But why you have not, like, you're in exile. Exile means you are almost it's like arrested in time, right? There is no
Yeah.
movement, you can't do much. Thanks to internet, you're still connecting with people like us want to know what's happening.
Yeah.
Instead of exile, why not think of peace treaties? Why not think of some kind of co-management, some kind of something? I'm just saying innovation. Think, fail, and something will come out of it. Rather than with this age-old tradition of azadi, freedom, all of that, it's not taking anywhere.
Now, you are asking this question because you do not.
See, this could be a very, with due respect, so I'm not disregarding your movement.
No.
I'm not disregarding your history.
Yeah.
But I am just trying to look at the future, 10 years down the line, and say, I don't see this going there. Can you think of something else, Jamal? That's my question.
Yes, I would say, and I would disagree with you. I'm not going into the history. I'm going to the ground realities now. What is happening in Balochistan?
Mhm.
So there are people in Balochistan who believe in the Pakistani Federation from Balochistan. There are many political parties, and they themselves are always saying they have been doing parliamentary politics since 1971. There are many old parties. And they are part of the Pakistan government always, but they have achieved nothing. That's the reason why people like me believe that there's no other way but the freedom of Balochistan. Now you are saying that why I'm in exile? Why would I live in London and will not visit Balochistan? Why? Because the colonization of Balochistan is worse than the colonization of India. Nehru, Gandhi, Chandra Bose, they were able to live in their own country and demand freedom. But you can't do it in Balochistan. Many people do not understand the nature of colonization in Balochistan. Let me give you an example. The newspapers cannot publish articles and statements which are pro-independence, related to pro-independence party, or somehow say that there's some kind of human rights violation or colonization or something which the Pakistan military elite disagree with. So this is the state of media. There are thousands of people are missing. More than 20,000 people, some human rights organizations say. Why? Because these people who are missing, and many of these people have been killed and dumped by the Pakistan army. These people are not those people who are related.
That's exactly what happens in violent games. It's violence.
Yes, yes. So why? Because I can't.
You see, Jamal, we can give it names of freedom struggle, political violence, etc. It's violence. The end of it's violence. It's a disease. Violence is a mental disease. Science has proved it. You can pass it on to your children. It goes in your genes. So what we're saying is, what's inherently the problem that was created by the external environment at the Balochistan is now also getting internally ingrained in the human beings there. So that's why I'm saying we need to think differently. Think differently, please. And another question, and I think a lot of we will open this to participants later, but I'm also saying that the underlying vision of these, so there are a lot of voices of Balochistan, right? I chose you because I thought yours was the most credible one. It was very neutral. I've read your articles before. I reached out to you and said, Jamal, could we hear you, please? Because I think somewhere you like to take a step back. You actually go back and think again, and that's one important quality of a leader of Balochistan, and what Balochistan needs right now. So the people is the voice of the politicians. Is that the voice of the people? Has someone asked them what is it that the people of Balochistan want? How do they sort out their own leadership?
The problem, like it is, we are not mad people. The independence and the independence, it is entirely logical. The Baloch leadership did try, and there are many segments within Balochistan who think that we will stay within Pakistani Federation and we will achieve something. But people are not supporting them. Like the current Chief Minister of Balochistan, you know how many votes he got in the election, how he was elected? He got less than 600 votes, and he is the Chief Minister of Balochistan. And why he got less than 600? It is like, I'm not making it up. You can search it in Google. It was reported by Pakistani media. Okay, so why a person is leading the government of Balochistan who got 600 votes? Why the people did not participate in those elections? Why the people are always being picked up and dumped? You are talking about the conflict resolution. You're saying that maybe there's a way to resolve the conflict. Yes, it must, because yeah, there must be some kind of conflict resolution, but you will resolve the problem when you will recognize the problem. Pakistani state is not recognize the problem. The Pakistani state, we are Pakistani. Pakistani is the nation. What does Pakistani mean? Pakistan has no meaning whatsoever. They are not recognizing that there is a nation, Baloch nation, which is a very historical nation. They were independent and they had their own state. They are not recognizing the ground realities. They are imposing their identity on us. They are imposing their political will on us, and that's the whole reason why when there is colonization, because the problem of Balochistan is not a power politic, as some people argue in many countries. It is the problem of colonized and colonizer. If I am because I will go with, if I will compare it with India, you will say talk on Balochistan, but in each country, there cannot be any political solution until you recognize that these people are equal. These people have the same rights as the Sunni Punjabis. Then you will talk about the solutions. This has happened in Ireland, in Scotland, in Catalonia, other places, in the Spain Basque region, that these people then in Europe recognize that yes, these are unique nations, and we recognize their rights to self-determination or right to national liberation. And then they found out the solution.
So picking up from national liberation and saying that 600 people only voted for the current government. What is
chief minister? Who's the guy who was chief minister?
The rest of those who did not. What is the life of a young Baloch person? Do they have freedom of expression? Are they living a life? Because see, I'm saying that because what we see when it comes to Balochistan, you Google it, you will see people dress very differently, behave very differently compared to what I see as a Baloch leader right now in front of me. Why is there so much of difference? Are they also on social media, or do they enjoy life? Do they go out? What is the life of a person in Balochistan?
No, when you are saying difference, what do you mean by difference? Economic difference, political difference, and the difference in ideas? What do you mean by difference?
we know that there's economic difference, because any area, any region that has violence, bloodshed, and there is no economics there, right? There is no economics there, right? Political, I am not interested, because it's all right, because every day media reports a politician from there, but no one reports a normal person. I'm talking about a young 18-year-old. I'm talking about a young 30-year-old or mid-career. What is their life? Do they have freedom of expression? If you're saying they're not participating in elections, they're not voting, and you're talking about national liberation, is it to do something with their freedom? Are they being curbed? In a way, you're saying we are being forced the nationalistic agenda of this and that. What is being forced on you is my question. What is difference between those people? So you Google it yourself, and you see the people with the guns. Look at their attires. They've possibly not even gone to a grooming salon for the longest time. Look, this question is, I know it's a very basic question, but we are talking about human beings. We are talking about people right now. And why is there so much difference? When I see a very well-groomed politician who's sitting on Zoom calls and giving the gyan, giving the knowledge to the world about Balochistan, what about his own people?
No, you're talking about the grooming. There's a
No,
tension among they now. Why I'm laughing, because
it's a question.
why I'm laughing. No, why I'm laughing on the grooming thing.
It's
Look,
a question
listen,
of knowledge.
Rasna.
Why people
Yeah,
on the
listen.
ground not only think but also look different than what I am? Then there is
Let me speak.
If I, as a leader, I have gone ahead, I have accepted how people are evolving in their thought process, in the way they dress, the way they talk, the way they eat, but my people on ground have not evolved. So I am not the leader then, because there is no connection. If you're talking about Mahatma Gandhi, then India was a very poor nation. They didn't have food. They didn't have clothes. They were like really slaves. Then Mahatma Gandhi left everything, right? And then he wore like a dhoti, like we call it, that white, khadi. And then he gave up on food, and he lived in a village. He was the leader. He connected with the masses of the country, and he created a movement. Who in Balochistan is like that? Who is the leader? Who you think people connect with?